comedian Bill Burr reacted here to the United Healthcare CEO shooting. And I just really appreciated how he reacted to this. Like, there's a lot of talk about who's the Joe Rogan of the left, and there's no way to do that. Because Joe Rogan, his show makes hundreds of millions of dollars in part because it doesn't really challenge anything in a meaningful way. It's conspiracies. Yeah, we'll peddle pro-Trump stuff and racism, but largely people that are paying attention to it, it's just like a libertarian podcast with the aesthetics of some like edgy stuff. It doesn't necessarily challenge power in any way. But I would nominate Bill Burr if he were interested. I just don't think he is in terms of left-wing Joe Rogan figures. But this is how he reacted and how I think a lot of people should react to the reaction that people have had about the killing of this United Healthcare CEO.
Paul, what's going on in New York? We were just talking about it. That CEO got fucking whacked.
Oh my God, dude.
You know what's funny? I was going to read an article, guy. They go, oh my God, he's such a great guy. He had a wife and kids, and he's such a great guy. And then you find out he and the other guys he's working for are getting sued for $121 million for dumping a stock and not letting the other people know. It's like, there's your motive.
Dude, anytime I hear CEO of one of the biggest healthcare, it's like, you don't wish it on anybody. You feel horrible for his kids and his wife, of course. But dude, when I saw that and I saw,
what is more heartless than a fucking CEO of a corporation? The decision in healthcare, the decisions that they make. This is the thing. I'm not saying what happened should have happened, but I'm just, for them to be like, oh, this is like, why would anybody want to do this? It's like, they're denying claims and people are dying. The food supply is poison. It's like the fucking motive out there is wild. It's right up there, Paul, with getting life insurance. The second you get life insurance, whoever is the beneficiary immediately has motive. You are now worth such and such amount of money if you're not alive. And there you are talking.
That's the first time in my lifetime where I saw surveillance of something that was like a fucking movie, where the guy just stood out holding the gun, silencer hat, shot him and just went off. That was fucking wild to see.
Anyway, basically, like, I mean, this is most people are saying like having a version of that conversation, because as he says, you know, like this United in particular is because of, I think it's market position, and they operate as a cartel. Like you were saying this earlier, they're number one in denying claims. And the reason that private health insurance doesn't need to exist is because it's essentially acts as like a mafia middleman. It acts as somebody taking a cut and putting you in between your health care, where if there was a single insurer, if the government was the single insurer, the risk pool would be the same as traditional insurance, right? So you would be able to incorporate younger people, so the cost would be driven down, and you wouldn't have the person, the insurer, in the middle of the payment taking a cut. And that mafia-style mob boss health insurance person, they've gotten more and more emboldened as this system has been allowed to go on and has ballooned in the way that it has.
Using AI to deny claims.
Right. And again, more people were insured under the Affordable Care Act, and the patient protection part was the key under Obama, where you were no longer allowed to deny people health insurance based on a pre-existing condition. Say they didn't report a procedure that they had, that the health insurer could feasibly say, like, well, that could have affected X condition. Turns out this life-saving treatment or surgery that you thought was covered under your insurance, because you didn't disclose this one little thing, or you maybe had an issue with your health care as a child, well, we'll find an excuse to make sure that you can't get that life-saving treatment. That is violence. That is violence. It's
profit.
Violence for profit. And they know that. And this guy who was murdered knew that too. And
he benefited from it every day. He bought giant house. He had tens of millions of net worth.
And that is on the carcasses of I don't know how many people, tens of thousands at the very least. 44,000 people die in this country annually due to a lack of health insurance. And so it's just a completely unnecessary. It's a completely unnecessary middleman that's just there to extract profit for very wealthy people. And frankly, because we have a system where there's so much passive income and this like investment Wall Street structure where growth is both impossible but necessary for the system that supposedly is perfect to work forever, endless growth, where like these health insurance companies, they balloon, they get to a certain point where people need health insurance. Like the market is saturated, and this is maybe part of why the Obamacare piece of subsidizing, pushing people towards private insurance ends up creating a situation where like now they have more of an ability, I think, to throw their weight around as these mafia middlemen.
Yeah.
It is the I lost my train of thought. Shoot.
Oh, sorry.
But it's that very fact, I think, also contributed to why this pain is so widespread, is because everybody's had to deal with this. And even when you are insured, you're like, what the hell have I been paying for? What have I been paying for? I've been paying like a chunk of my paycheck, or I'm doing this through the state and it's subsidized or whatever. I'm paying like $1,200 a month for my insurance, and then I still get denied. What do you think people are going to do when they hear that? They're going to react.
It's the Patient Protection and the Profiteer Protection Act, which is ultimately what Obama was. These behemoths are creations of Romneycare/Obamacare, and like they are publicly traded. So it's not just the benefit of Brian Thompson, it's every freak shareholder. And I can say this, I don't own stock. I'm not from people who own stock. I don't own stock. I think that shareholders in general are maybe one of the most calamitously destructive class of people in existence. So all these people who own United Health stock, they get the benefit of it. And that investor meeting went on absolutely immediately without a hitch after Thompson was gunned down in the street, because all those people are worried about is how much money they're going to extract from this system that should not exist, but that was protected and put here by Obama. And the Democrats, like this idea that the Democrats might be able to harness this, I saw Rick Perlstein say that. I would love it. That's why I vote Democrat, because that's the party that should be. It's corrupt. There are so many corrupted. Kamala Harris got more money from United Health than the entire Republicans plus Donald Trump's presidential campaign combined. This is an urgent problem. And to the extent that we fall into fascism, it's because we are corrupt by entanglements like this that are ruining everyone's lives and killing and bankrupting their loved ones.
Yeah, and you wonder why people don't think the economy is working for them, because
their rent and their healthcare.
It's incredible. It's the rent, exactly. But people, like, we privatize essential needs, like someone's healthcare. If you're not going to just let your grandma die or your aunt with cancer die, they have to go to the hospital, and we take people at their lowest and then soak, like, just extract all of this money from them. For what end? It's so people can continue to get rich. And to my point about just like the endless growth and under capitalism, why it's nonsensical, we're seeing this also with big tech, where these companies get so big, there's a flood of investment at their outset, and they have a utility at the beginning that makes some measure of sense. But because if you're delivering for shareholders, you have to always be growing. Endless growth. You have to always be delivering for them and continuing to do so. What incentive does that create except more extraction, specifically if it's about not just like scrolling on your phone or Instagram or Facebook and they're selling your data or whatever. This is about things that people need to survive.
The AI thing was sold to shareholders.
Right. And so this is why these kinds of things have to be taken out of the marketplace, because endless growth under capitalism should not be determining our system for healthcare. And that's why people are so angry. And anyway, I just love Bill Burr, and hope he keeps doing podcasts and getting himself out there, because to be a white guy comedian, you don't also have to be a racist, misogynist piece of garbage. unlike what you hear at the comedy mothership down in Austin. Give me a break. Go Bill Burr.
Yeah, by the way, into the sort of complaint that actually if you have a 401k, you might be invested in one of these companies too. I don't have a 401k. 401ks benefit mainly rich people. So I think if you are leaning on that argument, it might reveal a class positioning.
Brennan from Missouri, Engels coined the term social murder for a reason.
It's a very, very important concept. I would say maybe one of the most important that Americans could understand at this moment. What killing is legal and what killing isn't.
Jody from Chicago, Illinois has its own insurance plan called Country Care. When I was on Blue Cross Blue Shield, they left me with a $1,500 bill in a month for my Humira. On Illinois Medicaid County Care, it's only $3 a month. Mr. Melancholy. Now,
sorry, I have to jump in on the 401k thing. I'm not saying they're evil, but I'm saying if you have followed this show and the way we talk about this, it has not worked out to the promise, and it has mainly benefited and exacerbated inequality. So that's about 401ks. It's not you individual should disinvest or whatever. This is not personal finance advice. This is broader political economy. Go ahead, Emma.
Well, I mean, it's also not like if you have a 401k because you don't have a pension, like that's.
We should have more pensions.
We should have more pension, but this is the same incentive that we were talking about. Why did we move away from pensions, right? Where it was it was not susceptible in the same way to market influences because 401ks are within the Wall Street system. It's to enrich those same people who are skyrocketing to the very top
Give Wall Street more money to play with.
The income bracket because they do that through basically making bets on Wall Street. Yep. And it created these pensions. Oh, they're like very fixed and they're not a part of Wall Street investment money, right? Like this is just it made
inefficient.
It's more like an actual retirement fund. No. Let's do 401ks instead. And so we've put so much of our capitalist society into a glorified casino.
Yep.
And we need to be taking these essentials piece by piece out of that system.
Yeah. And, I have parents who the one exposure they did have to the stock market was through 401ks, and they had to work longer because of 2008. So. Right.
And that's the downside of that. But you know what? Some other people got rich because that drove up stock for,
Oh, it's been really good for all the people, controlling that money.
LOL says this show fucking sucks when Sam is gone. Well, sorry about that.
It's gonna be a nice, fun week for you.
Different flavor, I'd say. Fierce Deity says, what is this guy on about? The mandate literally is gone.
I was going to get to that point too, but it seemed like kind of in the weeds and irrelevant, frankly, compared to what we're actually talking about.
Droid Duder says, Matt's right. Remember the death panel accusations about Obamacare? I always said that's literally what insurance companies do.
Yep.
Killing has always been fine when it's for profit and detached by processes and middle managers.
And Obama and his, health insurance buddies probably didn't mind that the government was going to be accused of being a death panel on that. It probably protect them from their left flank.
New voter 2024. You're right, Emma. We can't go on like this with CEO making money off the people who are needing help. Pardoned Jimmy Pesto said people love that con artist oncologist ProPublica did an expose on. People need their system on their side for stuff they don't have the training to understand. Pete Perlman, I had United Healthcare policy about 10 to 15 years ago, and because of my procrastination and disorganization, I came across a letter they sent informing me that my premium was coming due. Unfortunately, it came across 2 or 3 days past the date. They denied me the right to reinstate the policy and were intransigent about it, no matter how articulately argued the point, even though they had the discretion to reinstate it if they did decide to, if they wanted. I was furious and put several hours into trying to persuade them and talking to a bunch of people up and down the hierarchy. Now there's no way I would choose them or use them for anything.
Delay, Deny, Defend is, I believe, that book title.
Yeah. And what we need to break through is the myth that has been, I think, engendered in this country that, like, you're smart enough to navigate this system. right? You know, that I am Pete that you say about how you argued and you made all of your points. It doesn't really matter because this isn't because the system isn't designed to actually help you. That would make sense if you were arguing with somebody who was there to provide you with healthcare. Like, hey, I messed up on this. They are more profitable when they deny you healthcare because they get your insurance money and then they don't have to pay out. I mean, when you say it like that.
Imagine if I got money for denying a call.
Right.
Nope.
Let's give Matt money not to show up for work. Right? Would you still come in? It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. These corporations were created by the government. We actually had an interview. Maybe I got to find this. An interview with a guest on this. The corporate or the public creation of corporate insurance. These are constructs. These aren't
not natural
existing things.
I know. But people have such a lack of imagination or historical knowledge. So they just think everything that is in front of them is how things have always been.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.